All right, Ken. So introduce yourself, man. Who are you?
My name is Kendrick. I go by Ken. A few years ago, I was somebody who had been an entrepreneur since dropping out of college back in I think 2019. And I was just bouncing back and forth from different entrepreneurial endeavors. And I remember, one of the things we was working together. We was doing life insurance at the time. And I remember we was looking at like the leaderboard, we was looking at the bread that it said we made, but bank accounts was saying, and it was like, oh, this ain't it. And I honestly was running from entrepreneurship. So that led me to looking into this whole corporate thing.
Okay, cool. So, of course, you left entrepreneurship. When it came to, your transferable skills, tell us a little bit about how working with the Excellence Accelerator helped you recognize your transferable skills so you could turn those into a six-figure career.
Absolutely. So a lot of different things that I was doing in entrepreneurship, for example, like sales, I was able to see, how I had the metrics that I had delivered upon in those other different sales organizations, how that could translate into corporate. I was able to see how leading different teams, hosting meetings, helping the team to hit different KPIs, which is basically stand for key performance indicator, right? So the amount of money they were able to bring in for different companies, amount of calls they were doing on a daily basis, weekly basis, and also just like a leadership cycle. So being able to delegate different tasks that I may have originally started out doing, but delegating it to other people so that I could be effective in leading a large amount of people.
Okay, so when you first started out, just kind of saying, you know what, I do want to test those waters when it comes to that technical space, to that corporate space. Did you actually believe that, like, okay, then I can go into this corporate space and I can definitely make six figures? Or were you kind of in disbelief, like, man, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I had a skill set. How was that experience for
Yeah.
you?
So for me, I ain't gonna lie, at first I was definitely in disbelief because at that point that was 2022. So I had been aiming to make six figures for the last 3 years in entrepreneurship and wasn't able to do it. Like I think the most I had made in entrepreneurship maybe was like 50 bands at that time. So 50% of the goal, I'm like, I can get a corporate job to get the whole 100% of the goal I've been aiming towards. Like, kind of sounded a little far fetched. But once I started seeing, people like you, Erica, Dylan, Mia, once I started seeing all of y'all get six-figure jobs with y'all transferable entrepreneur skills, then it was like, this is possible for me to do. So yeah.
For sure. Which, by the way, y'all, every single person that he just named, I also help them get six-figure jobs in tech too. So it's a consistent thing. It's a consistent winning situation we got going on here. So, okay, Ken, you're this entrepreneur. From what I heard you say earlier is that you ended up dropping out of college. So you were a college dropout, entrepreneur who had never had a corporate role for. I want you to talk to us about some of the things that working with me, how did that help your process when it came to filling out your resume, understanding how to really restructure and revamp your LinkedIn. Um, I want you to talk about those things, and then after that, we're gonna go into the confidence that you had to build to even get there.
So first thing, starting off with that whole resume thing, I was absolutely terrible at building resume. Like I remember the first resume I had was something I had built back when I was in college, and it
Oh, I remember
was
that.
so bare bones and basic. Like I think it was embarrassing. Like when you showed me your resume, I was embarrassed to show you mine because I had stuff like Burger King team member dates, take orders in drive through and front counter, in the kitchen at multiple states. Like it was so bare bones, like it wasn't no polished resume or anything like that. And it made me look back to when I was in college, while whenever I would apply to internships, nobody ever called me back because I wasn't speaking the language for them to call me back. So yeah, so
Okay.
that's the resume piece. What was the? I think your question had multiple
The
layers.
next thing had to do with your LinkedIn. How we were able to like
LinkedIn.
help you transform that LinkedIn and all of that good stuff.
Absolutely. So with the LinkedIn, that also, I mean, that resembled the resume, very bare bones in terms of the different tasks I had on that. So one of the things you really helped me out with was helping me to utilize SEO, search engine optimization. So basically, like helping me to put those keywords for the jobs that I was looking for in my name, so that when these recruiters were looking for the positions that I was looking to apply for and get hired in, if they from their LinkedIn whatever you call the terminology, their
Yeah.
dashboard, yeah, they
Yeah.
could, boom, Kendrick was popping up at the top. So that helped me to, position myself higher than the other people out there. And then also, just displaying in the history of my jobs that I had worked in, just displaying that I was able to do the job that they was putting out there. Of course, it may have been a different job, but at the end of the day, sales is sales and leadership is leadership. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so talk to us a bit about how your confidence shifted from how you were operating before you had ever had us fix all those resumes for you, before we ever worked with you on that LinkedIn, before you ever had your first interview. Talk to us about that transformation that you had when it came to your confidence. When you went from not six figures to above six figures. Talk to us about that confidence shift.
Mm. Confidence shift. It really just showed me that like anything that you put your mind to is really possible. If anything that you put your mind to is possible, for one. Number two, like the money that you want to make, is somebody out there that's got the pen to the check, the sign to give you that amount of money. You just have to position yourself in a place to where you can receive that money. And that comes from, developing the skills, in the current job that you're doing right now. I think something that me and you used to talk about was how even when we had those, like, I don't know if you call it low level jobs, but those like very entry jobs like fast food and stuff like that when we were younger, even though we had those jobs, we always operated in excellence at those jobs. And when you can operate in excellence as something that you may not be passionate about, once you get something that you're passionate about, then it's even easier to operate in excellence as something that you actually like. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so tell me this. You already know what the Excellence Accelerator is about because you've already been through it and you've already made six figures from it. So, what would you tell that person who is wondering, like, dang, like, should I work with Jada? Should I work with the Excellence Accelerator? Like, I'm scared. I've never done this before. I worked with somebody else before and they claim they helped me, but I got zero results. What would you tell that person that is sitting in that pocket of disbelief and they're just questioning themselves and they don't know the right decision to make?
Yeah. So, hey, I can vouch for you. I've been knowing you around 10 years. Been working with you professionally and entrepreneurially for the last six or so. And you're somebody that's extremely results oriented, like you the person where it's like, if we ain't talking results, what we talking about? You know what I mean? So I think that, I think whenever you're picking somebody for mentorship, it's important to pick somebody who has the results that you are looking to get. And like I said, before I had ever got the six-figure job, you was the person that had the six-figure job, right? So you was able to show me, this is how you do the resume. This is how you do the LinkedIn. You was role playing with me when it came to the job interviews, right? You was helping me to find those practice interviews out there for the specific jobs. And that right there was really, I would say that was one of the biggest things that helped me in the process of getting the job, because when I first started like interviewing for the stuff, I was in that bad boy winging it, because I was like, shoot, I can get on IG, I can do a whole hour live, just about something I read in the book. So what is it for me to get on a 30-minute or a 15-minute interview and just ramble, but I was seeing that I was missing the mark. So it was something clearly that I was missing. You was able to help me, you know what I'm saying, really like fill in those missing pieces for me to finally get from, okay, we had a final round interview and we didn't have multiple of them and we failed at it. Okay, this is a strategy for when we get to the final round where we can start to actually get some interest so that we can get paid 6 figures. So
Absolutely, for sure.
yeah.
I tell people all the time when they start asking me questions about, getting help, getting mentorship, the first thing they ask me about is resumes and LinkedIn. And I have to let them know, like, listen, the resume and LinkedIn, that's a byproduct of the work that we're gonna do. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of similar to going to a steakhouse and then cool, you end up getting a steak and you get some water with lemon. You getting a steak and a water with lemon was a byproduct of you spending money at the steak spot because that's what it was for. But what makes you actually have success in that steak spot and enjoy what you're doing is the ambiance of it, is the experience, is the things that
Mm,
you get outside of the steak and the water with lemon. Because the resume, that's a given. You knew that you knew you were gonna need a resume to get a job. Okay, great. Your LinkedIn, that's a given. You knew you were gonna need your LinkedIn to get a job. So the resume and the LinkedIn, that takes us 1 hour to complete, and we're done with that.
yeah.
You're like, I try to explain to them, like, your value is not gonna come from a resume and LinkedIn. We're gonna do that because you need it, and we're gonna make it a six-figure LinkedIn and a six-figure resume. But what you need is you need the help to build that confidence, to build that bridge to your skill sets, so you can actually get the six-figure career. You need the interview mocks. You need somebody to look at the job description with you and say, here are the keywords you need to be looking at when you go into the interview.
Mhm.
You need somebody to do the research for you and say, here are the KPIs that you need to bring up. You need somebody that can say, they offered you 120, but I looked this up on this site and I know that they should have offered you 145. Like, these are the things that you really need. The resume and LinkedIn, you gotta have that. That's a given.
Right.
You gotta have it. But that other stuff, that's the stuff that really get people six-figure careers. And I just wanted the people to hear from somebody that was able to come in the door, follow the directions, and come out on top, making not 110,000, not 115,000, but over 130,000, like from that corporate job, from that corporate role, man. So
Oh, from the crib.
remote from the crib, never left the house. Never had to leave the house.
Look, when I did have to come into the office, 'cause mind you, I was living in Alabama and North Carolina. So
Yeah.
whenever I did have to come into the office, light paid for. My company I was working for, they was located in Chicago downtown. Put me in a high rise downtown.
Yep.
Paid for that. Transportation was paid for. Food was paid for. It was basically a free trip. I used to ask them like, "Hey, y'all need me to come to Chicago?" Because I knew they was gonna pay for everything. So yeah, like man.
Sure. Okay, man. So if there was anything that you could leave someone with who was just, trying to make that final decision, on what they want to do, what is something that you would leave them with?
Regards to working with you or in regards to getting in the door for like a 6 figure job?
Most likely, working with us.
Okay.
Most likely working with us.
Cool, cool. So yeah, I would just say that like the with working with you, I think the biggest thing is, like I said, like I already mentioned, results. You're gonna get results. You somebody who has a track record in results. Like I said, anybody that's looking for mentorship, find you a mentor that got the results. Boom, you got that. Also, you need, we'll say proof of concept, but proof of concept is the results. Also, you need somebody who has variety of different people that you help get jobs, and I know
That's a
that
good
you've helped people get project management jobs. You help people get Scrum Master jobs. You help people get tech sales jobs. You help people get customer success manager jobs. So you got, and that's just what I know. So I know you probably got even more than that. So yeah, you got a variety of different success that you've helped people to do. And then you also have, I would say, longevity when it comes to doing this as well, because you got into corporate back in 2022. You've had your job for 3 years. You've gotten promotions, big girl promotions. Uh, and sure, you've done that. You've hired people for jobs, so not only the side of applying to the jobs and interviewing, but you also know the flip side on being the person that's interviewing other people and going through resumes, 70 people, denying people. So you know all of the different things that it takes to get into the door. So yeah, hey, if I was had a time machine, I was going back to 2022, I would go through the success. I would go through the program again. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think six figures, I think growing up, around people that may not make six figures is viewed as a luxury to get to six figures. However, being people that has gotten to six figures, I think six figures is a necessity. So yeah, I would leave people with that.
Man, y'all listen, he dropped some gems on y'all. He gave y'all some insight into what it is like actually working with us. And not only did he give y'all insight into his experience, my man's told y'all about the experiences of other people that he knows personally. I would say that that's a plug if I never heard anything. It's a plug. Oh, thank you, Ken. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for trusting us, for working with us. And hey, listen, when you're ready to go ahead and get that tech job that's paying you that $250,000, so you can go ahead and get that director position. You let us know when you're ready for that 250K. Okay, you let us know. We'll be there.
Say less.
All right, y'all. We out.